Hey there. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make drone controls using Pygame. But first, I want to make note, this is not my original creation. I'm just building on top of another person's work. More specifically, this person here on Murtaza's workshop robotics and AI. I was going through his lectures on drone programming, and I noticed that he had a keyboard input, but he didn't even have any mouse input. So that's what I want to expand on, making a mouse input for drone, like controlling a drone. And what you got to understand is that when a drone receives a signal, it, it has to receive more than one signal. Like if you send one signal, most likely it won't get through. You got to send multiple signals for it to get through. So you got to send like 50 times. So that's a little bit tricky to do with a mouse, but I'm going to show you how I can how you can do it with a little bit of creative programming. Okay, let's get started. Let me just get rid of this and let us start. So we're using Pygame, so we absolutely need the Pygame library. So I'm just gonna paste that in. So you need that. And the next thing we need to initialize a Py window. We need to make a window. So I'm gonna make a function here, def init, and we are going to initialize that window in this code. Here we go. Pygame.init. There we go. And now we just make our window. So we initialize our pygame. Now we make our window. I'm just going to copy and paste this here. And inside here goes a tuple. And it's basically a tuple of your window size. So let's make a width and height one here. Let's paste this in. We have a width and height. Inside here we can put our width and height. Width and height. There we go. And now we have our window initialized. I think before we do anything, I should probably we should start on how we're gonna test this. So I'm just gonna do if name equals main. If you don't already know, we typically use this when we run programs because it ensures that this window is running and not any other window is running. Because you want this to window, you want to run. Well, it's just good practice to use this all the time when you're testing things out. So as you can see from this function, I initialize the window here. So that's why I use this init, and I'm using a while true loop to go through these two functions. So we got to make these functions here. So let's make these are just test functions. So it's test get or def test get mouse. That's one function there. Let's put a pass for now. And over here, def test get key. And that's the other functions to pass here. And the actual function that does everything for us, that's the important function, we're going to call it getKey. And inside the key, you're going to accept the parameter. We'll call the parameter key. Put a pass here. And the last function will be getMouse. And let's just call it action here. I'm going to pass. So these are questions that we're going to use. So let me show you how this goes. So we haven't made this function yet, but I want to show you what the end result should be. So I'm going to use this test key right here, and the end result should be something like this. I'm just going to copy and paste this. So if you press A in your keyboard, then you're returning this A press A. You'll be returning it multiple times because you're going through a true loop. So basically, if this function returns true, and that's the keyword, it's returning true, then this will be printed, and this will be printed out multiple times. And the same thing for the mouse. So for the mouse, I'm just going to copy and paste this here. Again, if this statement is true, if it returns true, then you're gonna print this out, and you'll be printing out multiple times because you're going through this while true loop here. And there's a few other things with the mouse roll, the rolling wheel, and I'll show you that a little bit later. That's a little bit more trickier. So the easier part is this get keys part. We'll do that first. It's actually quite easy. Well, let me show you. So for when you do pygame, you're gonna always have to do this. You're gonna have to do here for event in pygame get event, and if event equals pygame quit, pygame quit. And like I said, if you want to, you're gonna make the window and you want to exit out of the window. So you're always gonna need this. You always need this pygame quit. Here I notice that sometimes it sort of like gets stuck. So you can do sys.exit 0, and you can import sys. If you need a little bit of help exiting out of the window, so you can import sys and do this, and this will exit out of the window. So again, you're always going to need this for whenever you start it up, and you're going to have to do the same thing for getMouse. So the next thing you need is this statement here. GamePy getKey pressed, and there's a specific syntax that you need. Let me show you the syntax. It looks like we'll be using an if. So if keyInput, and in brackets you can write down pygame dot, and if you look here, I believe it's k. You have all these commands here. Like well, you'll see here it's like ka, kp. So basically, here if you want to get the a button, you're gonna put ka. So if you press the a button, it's gonna return true. True. And so if you press the A key, this will be true, and then it's going to return true. If you press the B key, it'll look like this. That will return true. This will be true, and then it's going to return true. And so on and so forth. You can actually, this could be the space key. This has to be in capital letters. And if you press the space key, this will be true, and it's going to return true. As a result, it's going to basically this will be true, and it's gonna press this key multiple times. However, repeating this step for all the keys can be a headache. So a bit of a shortcut, what you can do is you can do this. You can say key equals get attribute, and so the first part of this, well, we're trying to mimic this right here, this game. So we're gonna copy and paste this, copy, and we're gonna put that there, and we're gonna separate this by comma. And this one over here, this will be a string. So yeah, so this will be an F string. Inside here, you want to start with K underscore, and then inside here, you want to put your variable, and that variable will be the key. Well, this variable here, let's call this getKey, and this variable will be key, and that should effectively mimic the button. Actually, let's just make this more clear. Let's call this keyName, and they call this keyName. And let's call this myKey. That's what that he uses, myKey. There we go. And so this sort of mimics this attribute here, this one here. So you don't have to put this anymore. You can delete that, and you can put myKey here, and that's it. That's how you mimic the keyboard strokes on your keyboard for Pygame. Just to show you that it's working, I'm gonna hit this button here. Now it's working, and you have to this window has to be activated. So if I press A, it goes here. A key. If you press B or D, it's S. So you can see that it's working, and it's working in the loop. And when you send a signal to a drone, it has to be like this. Okay, let's close this, and now let's start working on our mouse. Oh yes, we missed one thing. Zach, so what we want to do is we want to say answer equals true here, and then return answer. And let's put this back over here. And the reason why, because we need to put a line of code in between here, and it's pygame display update, because you want to update the display every time. Let me just close this here. Okay, now it's complete. Now let's work on the mouse, and we're doing the same thing for the mouse as well. Hold on, let me take a look here. So we're gonna need the same code as we have here. We always need this this line of code whenever we're working pygame. So copy, and let's paste that. We also need some global variables. So I'm gonna say global ANS, and I think there's one more that I need. Oh yes, sys, because this sys here, this is not local. This is we have it up here, so we need that sys there. Okay. So right above here, well, you can put this anywhere you want, but in my code I put it above here. So what here you're gonna need these line of code here. mousePress, GamePy mouse get pressed, and also here getMouse get rel. This is for swiping your mouse left or right. So right here I'm gonna say because we just need this for loop just to exit out of it. And other than that, we don't need it. So we'll need it later for some other stuff, but for now we just need it just to exit out of it. So you're always gonna need this to exit out of the window. So I'm gonna say if mouse press, and we have our mouse press right here, and there's three buttons there. There's the left mouse button, the right mouse button, and the mouse wheel. I'm going to be using the right mouse button, so I believe it is 1. Is it? No, this is the wheel, and I believe the right mouse button is that. That's the right mouse button. So if that's true, if that's pressed, also, actually, no, let's just do the mouse wheel first. So let's say if the mouse wheel is pressed, we want the answer to be mouse wheel mouse wheel pressed. And the reason why, because at the end of the loop, we're gonna set them equal to true, the action and the answer to true. Hold on, let me show you. So at the end of this, all this, you wanna do this. Obviously, you need to update your pygame. So let's update the pygame, and then you wanna say if this action here, if action equals the answer that you get, then you want to return true. Okay. But you want to make sure this answer is a global variable. That's why over here we put as a global variable, and up here underneath the imports you can say answer, and we can just give it anything equals nothing, just whatever you want, just a blank string. And yeah, that should actually better yet, let's go up here and let's return that as false. And the reason why we're returning is false is because in this getKey here, right? Returning here is returning true, but you can leave it like if there's nothing here, you can return nothing. So you have to return something for answer. So you either put answer equals false here, and then it'll work, or you put answer equals false in the global, and that should do the same thing. Or actually better yet, because you want to reset it, every single time. So you probably should do that. Put answer equals false right here to ensure that it works. Okay, so let's see if this works. I'm gonna start right now. And here's our window. And we do everything inside the window. Let's press our A key. A key's pressed. The W key, let's press the mouse button. And it looks like everything's working. Good. Okay, let's scroll down here. Let's close this. And now let's do the swipe left and right. Okay, so down here, underneath this mouse press, I'm going to use an else if statement. And here, just so you can see what's going on here. So I'm saying that if you press the right click button and you swipe to the right, swipe up, it's gonna return an answer of swipe up. And they also need this last part here, else. Else answer equals false, or answer equals anything. So this line of code here will mimic swipe up and swipe down. So let's test it out. Let's try this. Press this button here, and we have this here. Again, everything else works, but if I swipe up, so I press the right click on my mouse and I push upwards, I'm swiping up. If I push right click mouse on my mouse and push downwards, it swipes down. Looks like it's working. Good. But you know what, let's clean this up so it looks a little prettier. As long as it's one line of code, you can actually put it beside the colon mark. Again, this is only one line of code. Again, this is only one line of code. There we go. And this is only one line of code. It only works for only one line of code. If it's more than one line, then you have to put it underneath. Now, if you want to do swipe left and right, it's the same code as this, except you change a few things around. Let's copy paste this underneath here. Let's go copy and paste. And the left click button, I believe it's 0, and the mouse move will be 0 and 0. So let's paste it in our test here. Swipe left and right, and let's see if that works. I think it's going to be the opposite direction though. There we go. Swipe up, swipe down, up, down. There we go. Okay, something went wrong. Let's see. Oh, we forgot to change our name. So this would be swipe right or left, and this one should be swipe right. Because down here we have it as that. Swipe. Oh, we didn't change. We gotta change it here as well. Let's do right, left. Here is left. Up here is right. Let's test that out. Now it's working. Left, right. Good. Okay, now for the tricky part. For the rolling mouse. And now we're going to have to do that underneath here. Here. I'm just going to copy and paste this. So you need this if event type equals rolling mouse. And what's happening here is I'm returning true only once. So if event button for that's the roll up, and then the event button for 5 is roll down, but it only returns a 1. But you gotta like I said earlier, you have to return it multiple times for this to work. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to be a little bit creative. So let's go down here to the test, get mouse, and down here I'm just gonna copy and paste this. There we go. And we're going to need a variable called count1. Well, count1 and count2, a global variable. So let's go up here and let's make a global variable called count1, and let's set that to 0. Let's make another one for count2, and we'll set that to 0 as well. Okay, let's go down here, back down here. Saying that if getMouse rollup is true, right, you're gonna set count1 to 1, right? Let's put this down here so you can see it better. Count1 to 1. You're setting it to 1 here. And here's the second statement is if count is between 0 and 50, and this could be any number. You can actually put to 100 or whatever number you want. I'm using 50 because I wanted to show up 50 times. So if it's between 0, if it's greater than 0 and less than 50, you're gonna start adding to the count. So it's gonna start counting up to 50. And so once it reaches 50, then it's gonna stop this. It's gonna stop this print, mouse roll press, and then if the statement is, it's also gonna, if it's past 50, it's gonna reset it back to 0. So between 1 and 50, it's going to do this, and it gets past 50, it's going to reset back to 0. And let's do the same thing for the roll down button. So over here, let's close this here. So over here, there we go. Same thing. So okay, so to explain this further, we have a global variable of 0 for count 1 and count 2. So it's at 0, but this only prints out here if it's between not 0, but between 1 and 50. That's the only time this prints out. So here it's like a trigger because you're only sending one true response. So this returns true only once. So once it sends a true, it sets the count to 1, and that sort of sets an amplification effect or cascading effect that returns it 50 times. So you're just amplifying this true response 50 times until once it passes 50, then it resets it back to 0. And let's see if this works. Oh yes, we have to make them global variables because again they're outside this function. So count 1 and count 2. And that's important. And if you use this function elsewhere, you're going to have to also make it a global variable in whatever function that you're using it in. So let's see if this works. So we're going to roll down. There we go, 50 times. And I'm going to roll up. It goes 50 times. Roll down. So yeah. So again, it only sends one response, but it just amplifies that one response 50 times. And I think that's everything. I'm going to put everything in the link description, and that's about it.